the issues that we're facing today are not just economic issues of the shutdown and are not just issues of police brutality. It is a construction of a society that is hell bent on exploiting and extracting resources from poor working class communities, maintaining a system of control and domination through violence and terror. Viewing that video of George Floyd was a form of terror, right? To keep us in line and to keep us in place. And so a lot of the work that I started to do in response to that experience of personally being arrested and experiencing a curfew in my own city, which I love very much, was to try to support other young people who wanted to get up and take action, particularly young queer and trans people. So being arrested, and I was held in a men's cell in the in Queens, actually, when I was held there. Being arrested as a queer and trans person, especially as a visibly gender nonconforming or non-binary person, is not a fun thing to do, you know, because not only are you afraid of what's going to happen with the police officers, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, what are these other people who are in the cell with me going to think about me? How are they going to treat me? How are they going to refer to me? And of course, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about this, Barbara. For so long on Movements for Justice, queer and trans people have not been listened to. We have not been allowed to be leaders. We have not been allowed to have voices and platforms. And so what I wanted to do after that experience was it really inspired me to take up more space, you know, and to not only try to resource, connect, educate, and activate around other people, but around the piece of representation, not like neoliberal representation, but like seriously, we need to see ourselves and see our power. We need to see ourselves out in open space. We need to see ourselves out dressed in ways that affirm us and taking up space in spots of leadership. And so that was a big part of the organizing that I was trying to do this summer, trying to get resources, support, education, and activation to other young queer and trans people who have been integral to our movements for social justice for decades, for centuries, really, in this country, so that maybe this time we don't see the same communities getting left behind.
Thank you, Joshua. And Barbara, I just wanted to give you a moment. I know that Joshua invited some more comments from you about how queer people have been able or not able to show up in organizing spaces. So I wanted to invite some thoughts from you.
Well, I think that that thing of being out, you know, when I came out in the mid 1970s, which was a few years after Stonewall, that was kind of the defining concept. Were you out or were you in the closet? What you said, Josh, about visibility and taking up space, I've had that experience because now, you know, it's cute to be queer, you know, at least to some people. There are queer Black women, you know, what we used to call lesbians. I'm still a lesbian, actually. Anyway, that, you know, have big careers. You know, they're very visible in popular culture and mainstream, you know, culture, media. And I know that our trans sisters, you know, some of them are actors and, you know, have big platforms, you know, and again, in mainstream media. And they're also freedom fighters, which I love as well as the people who are not, you know, living that life and who are doing the work on the street. But as I said, that concept of taking up space, of being visible, that's what the pride parades were about. And let me tell you, like being in a pride parade before corporate police takeovers of pride parades, thank you. But being in grassroots community pride parades in Boston, actually, and I'm thinking about Kendra, who lives in Boston still, on the streets of Boston in the mid to late 1970s, that was like taking a lot of, you know, that took a lot of courage to be out there. And it was so exhilarating. Now, going to jail, that's a whole other level. And I can't say anything except for thank you. Thank you for having that level of bravery and courage. That takes a lot of courage. And a lot of us have ended up in jail or in prison and incarcerated and have been treated horrifically as a result, particularly if we are trans.
Thank you so much for sharing, both of you. I think one of the things that we're seeing is that as movements become more prominent, you can see the shifts that they make throughout the decades, right? That visibility in the mid to late 1970s meant something really different than it means now. And therefore, it kind of redefines the level of courage that people have to exert in order to be visible and the things that you have to do to kind of continue pushing the envelope. And so I'm really grateful for both of you for sharing the transformative work that you're doing. You're not only like anchoring us in our history, but you're also helping us to create more possibilities for the collective futures in ways that are really familiar, but also in new ways that we've never been able to see before.